Hi JP, it's me Hunter. I am going to be doing a reflection video. To start out, my two essential questions are: what were your thoughts before taking this class and why? I chose this first question because as I thought about the class equity and diversity, I automatically assumed that we were going to talk about race and racism and oppression and all of those things we did talk about, but I, going into this class, thought I didn't really need to learn much because I am Black and I live every day the way that I am, and so it wasn't something that I felt like I need to educate myself on, which I was clearly very wrong. I had so much to learn, and it really made me open my eyes and made me see different perspectives. And there were times where I was like, yeah, this is something that, for example, when we would talk about race and being oppressed, and which we always did, but specifically just sections of, okay, racism and how it's evident today, I think those things I felt like it hit home because it was like I have to wake up and say like, okay, will I be oppressed today? Who knows? I guess we'll figure it out. And some of my peers do have the privilege of not having to think about that every single day. And so my first essential question basically was just for me to reflect. I think that this class has made me feel challenged and encouraged. There were some classes where I left feeling discouraged because I didn't feel like anyone else viewed the way that I viewed or understood my view. I think that it made me feel convicted in a lot of ways of trying to figure out, is this my flesh that is upset, or is this because the person that is saying this, it doesn't know what they're really saying? And so there was a lot of battling between understanding other people and their views, and then kind of being like, okay, but this is my point of view and they're clashing, so how do we not let them clash? Or if they clash, how do we deal with it? And so those are just like my thoughts as a class overall. For me, I think that it was a class that was well needed. I think I grew a lot from the beginning to now, in a way that just allows me to listen better, and to just be slow to speak and quick to listen, and slow to become angry. I think that it's really easy for people to be defensive in conversations of equity and diversity, and I think that as a class, and just even myself, I got to really try and challenge myself to sit and to listen and to say something when I did feel like I needed to say stuff, but then just sit back and listen when the times that I needed to. I think it's okay not to talk all the time. I'm not this person to just constantly talk, but I think that when I do talk, it does hold value. My second question is, what stuck out the most, and how will you make sure to use it in your teaching and shape the environment of your classroom? So as I was going through the weekly reading notes, and the quotes and is everyone really equal, the first quote that I feel like that stuck out to me from the bat, that really has helped me go through this class is, recognize that you don't have to agree with concepts in order to understand and learn from them. And that's in the book of Is Everyone Really Equal? And kind of going again, it says, understanding theory is not only relevant but also essential for social change to occur. I think those two went hand in hand for me and really stuck out to me when we first started these conversations, because if we don't recognize when we disagree with someone, it's going to be hard to know that when we agree with someone. And so I think that it's so easy for society to say that we don't agree and automatically think that we can't learn, and I don't think that is correct. I think that was my point of view before this class, but now I think that I'm still learning how to learn when I don't understand and agree. And so in regards to my classroom, I think having those conversations, I want to be integrated language arts English education for older students. And so I think the conversation of, hey, you might not disagree or you might not agree with your peers, but that doesn't mean that you can not learn from them. And so I think having those conversations and having those discussions about point of views and perspectives and opinions, because opinions do matter, but opinions aren't always facts, which is also something that talked a lot about that in Is Everyone Really Equal? And so I just realized that those were concepts right off the bat that I really needed to really dive deeper in. And yeah, so that was the first kind of thing that stuck out to me as the class started. I think the other part of Is Everyone Really Equal? First of all, I really liked the Is Everyone Really Equal? I think that helped me personally to help me guide conversations and to help me guide what I was thinking and to put things in perspective, and when I didn't feel like I could figure out my own perspective at the time, just giving me more insight and more knowledge, just because I feel as though I didn't really grow up thinking about a lot about being oppressed and racism. I obviously have a Black family, so it was very easy to have the conversation come up, but it wasn't the forefront because I did go to a predominantly white school and grew up in a very white suburban community. And so these conversations for me were honestly pretty brand new. I don't think I really ever started talking about all of these concepts in depth until last semester. And so the second thing that stuck out to me was we must understand that oppression involves pervasive historical on an individual, situational, and momentary interaction. That's loaded, but I chose that because as I heard the word oppressed within the last year, because a lot of us probably have, I've always known and needed to know that there were certain things that others have and I don't. I think that oppression looks different for a lot of people. And I think as we go into a classroom, as I go into my classroom, I want to just be able to know my students and to make relationships with them and for them to know that my classroom is a classroom of building up and growing and encouraging and challenging, but also in a good way. And so as I have students of color, I know that they're going to face so much outside of my classroom. And so just knowing that when we understand oppression, especially for my non-Black students in the classroom, having content where we get to talk about oppression. And I really liked the activity, JP, that you did where it had each of us turn our cameras off, and then you said turn your cameras on if, and then you had to turn your cameras off and you're like, okay, see who is with you right now. I think that is so powerful, and I really want to use that in my classroom as an activity. And I think it'll help my students learn that not everyone grows up the way that you grew up, and a lot of people struggle. A lot of people have felt oppressed. A lot of people have a lot more privilege than a lot of people. And so I just think that it holds more weight when you're actually in it and you're actually learning it. For example, the activity that we got to do. And so honestly, I could go on and on, but I'm not sure if I did this reflection video right, but yeah, I just am really excited to build my classroom, for my classroom to be a courageous space, a space of respect, a space of active engagement, a space of learning and dismantling views that we feel as though don't reflect what we want to be about as a classroom. I think classroom norms and classroom structure, I want my students to be able to come up with that on their own. I think I've been thinking a lot about maybe the first week of class, just talking about classroom norms and what we want our expectations to look like as each class, and as the week goes on, they get to write it on the board, or they get to talk about it, and we get to build it for that school year. Because I think that when students are forced to do something, they're less inclined to go with it and to pursue it less than them coming up with it on their own. I think that if they come up with it on their own, then they'll be more inclined to actually be motivated, because they know, like, oh wow, I really put that up there. There's more responsibility now. There's more accountability. And so, yeah, that's my reflection video. I hope you enjoy my thoughts. I hope that I did this correctly. And yeah.